us is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? How's it going? You keeping warm? It's been very, 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 very cold here in the Northeast. Am I right, Rob? Oh, must be January or February. I don't know. Where are we? It's winter. But we're going to warm you up tonight because we have some stories for you. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. I'm yakking it up with Rob over there on the other side of the screen, who doesn't really talk to me. He just stares at me and nods his head. It's okay. How's your new year going? 2 thumbs up? Oh, yeah. And, of course, the PPBC faithful are very busy writing their first books. Yes, yes. We have some more amazing authors for you to consider right here, right now. And we are going to begin with a guy who had a stockpile of writings to choose from. Jason Johnson is his name, and you might recognize him if you're from the Minnesota area. The title of his book alone is likely to pique your interest. It is called, you ready? You ready, Rob? I sure hope this book gets me laid. The Zenith News Essays, Volume 2. Now, that is some title, Jason.
Well, I had to call it something. It was almost called that. I had to call this book something.
Yeah, well, I think your blurb is very interesting. It's your new collection, so I'm assuming there was an old collection of satirical essays that include Your Baby is Ugly, Profiles in Douchery, Lies, Damn Lies, and Fake Boobies. The NRA is full of spit. Just Being Insane Doesn't Make You a Libertarian. And Truly Magical, 69 is a magic number.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let Jason pick the Oscars, shove Massey up his assy. Are you a comedian? What's your deal?
I do some stand-up comedy, but mostly I'm a humor writer for local alternative publications. Been writing humor columns for about the last 16 years. That's pretty much my deal.
Do you get paid to do that, or do you have to have a real job?
Just a little bit. So, yeah, I do have to have an alternate job. But if anybody is out there looking for a humor columnist for $75,000 a year,
okay,
I am available.
Okay.
Just to be clear.
Yeah. All right. I'll get that out there for you. So what do you do, to pay the bills?
I am a disgruntled postal worker.
Disgruntled postal worker. Great. Okay. Got to watch you. Got to keep an eye on you, mister. So I don't even know where to begin. I guess you're not getting laid because you're hoping the book gets you laid. Am I right?
Yeah. That's the way it's been.
Yeah. Geez, how old are you, sir?
I turned 46 in about 5 days.
All right. Well, you got some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you hoping to accomplish? Laughter, I guess.
Yeah, mostly laughter. I like to inform people, too. A lot of my columns are informative. Like I debunk a lot of myths in my columns. Like, for example, there was a myth that was perpetrated by the TV show Survivor, where somebody urinated on somebody's injury. It was supposed to disinfect the wound, Mm-hmm. That, of course, is a total myth. I make that very clear. The only reason I can think that myth persists is that if somebody is peeing on you, statistically speaking, one of you is getting aroused by it. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. Okay. Any more like that?
Well, I tell a lot of fun facts. Every February, I would do a President's Day column, and I would tell fun facts about the presidents.
Okay.
For example, Rutherford B. Hayes broke up the railroad strike of 1877 by pulling trains with his beard. That was a long way to go, but well worth it, right?
Right. Jeez, who knew that? Who knew that?
Yeah, so this is sort of between 2010 and 2014, most of these columns came out. So
Okay.
that's kind of where it's kind of a good cross section of the Obama era politics, because just things got really loopy under him. I mean, we have to admit that.
You want to give me an example of that?
Oh, well, we had Mitch McConnell saying that tax cuts paid for themselves because they were part of existing tax law. I don't even know how to make that any less crazy. It's just
it's just crazy all by
itself. It pays
itself.
for itself because it exists. Exactly. It's weird.
So it took you a couple of years to get this done.
Yeah. I wish I was the kind of guy who could get a book out in 3 months, but that's just not how it works
All right.
in the alternative publishing realm.
What led you to Page?
I think it was just an advertising, and I said, "The hell with it. Let's try this."
Okay.
It wasn't anything any more sophisticated than that.
Okay. Now, are you going to promote it? Well, if you're doing stand-up, you can talk about, now you have a book out.
I can. I've gotten exactly 3 sales that way.
Oh, well, very good.
Yeah. That's at this rate, I'll hit a milestone like 50 sales in, I don't know, 2040 or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do?
I'm just going to keep plugging away and hoping that somebody hires me. Again, I'm available as a humor columnist.
Asking salary, $75,000 a year. No problem, Jason. No problem. It was 1 year ago this month that we had Albert Mordecai on the Page Publishing Book Club. And he's been writing about, the Mideast conflicts and, asked the question in his books, whether Jews, Muslims, and Christians will ever be able to live together in peace. He writes some really nice stories, and his latest book is entitled United in Peril. It can happen anytime, any place. Welcome back, Albert.
It's about, it's about 2 everyday guys that come, go to a vacation and met, one is Israeli, married to Israeli woman, live in New York for like almost 10 years, and the other guy is half Palestinian, half Egyptian, that moved to New York and met American woman and got married. And both of them, come with the same flight, but they didn't know that. And they met in the beach and have a good chemistry and start good friendship. But after that, they had argument about politics and religion. And they stopped talking, and the terror attack happened. And the question is if, even with the differences between an Israeli and Arab, if they united against the peril, against the danger. That's the message. Even it's a problem, even you don't agree with somebody else, but if it's, the question is, you're gonna go together, united against the peril, against the danger. And this is, from what you're reading the book, you're getting the message from that.
That we can agree to disagree and move forward.
Exactly. My first book was Breach of Comprehension, and it's also about interfaith marriage between Israeli and half Muslim, half Christian. And I try to, to continue the message for unity, for understanding that we all the same people, just different religion, and we need to focus on peace, not on hate, and that's my goal. And I hope more people are going to understand that this is the way we should live. But also, it's a story. It's a nice story. It's a suspense, and people. When people reading the book, they keep reading it. I hope it's not going to get worse before it's going to get better. But that's what's going to happen. It's going to get worse before it's going to get better. But I try to, when I start writing my first book, was with a strong belief that if I can save one life and people change the way they're thinking by them reading my book, it's going to change. It's going to make the difference, and that's what I hope so.
I hope so too, Albert. It's a pleasure to talk to you. It really is. What's next? You got another one coming?
I already published my 3rd book, Abyss of Love.
Okay.
And I finished my 4th book, but I didn't publish it yet, and I'm working on my 5th book.
Jeez.
I can't say the name, I can pronounce the name because it's not finished yet.
Okay.
But I'm writing all the time. Yes.
Well, that was the whole idea.
Right now, I'm translating my first book to Hebrew, and it's going to be published in Israel by Stimatsky. It's the biggest publisher in Israel.
That's awesome.
That's what I'm working on.
Good for you, Albert. You told us the first time you were on that you retired with a goal to write about a very difficult subject, and you are succeeding in doing that. So, who knows? Maybe it'll help make the world a better place. Pastor Rice Brooks has gained a following by presenting evidence that God is real. He's a very successful pastor. His book's been made into a movie. He addressed thousands at a Creation Fest Northeast this past summer. And he's written several books, including God is Not Dead. Cliff Summers, a former trial lawyer, was so disturbed by the pastor's arguments that he decided to take him on in his first book. And it's entitled, Is He or Isn't He? A Response to God's Not Dead. Cliff, what are some of the things you take issue with?
Well, I take issue with his various evidence, including things like the tuned universe, his criticism of evolution, and almost everything in his book. I also take issue with his presentation of what the Gospels of the Bible say or mean. Actually, I wrote the book, Is He or Isn't He?, attempting to refute every single thing he said from beginning to end. In the issue of the creation of the universe and the purpose of the creation of the universe, a theme is the tuned universe, which means that many of the factors at the basis of the functioning of the universe are such that they appear to be tuned in order to produce the human race. If many of them, such as Planck's constant or the weight of the electron and many other factors, had been just slightly different from what they are, the universe as we know it would not have existed. And the odds, as calculated by various mathematicians, that all of those things would occur as they did, as opposed to some other way, are minuscule. So obviously the universe was tuned just so that it would produce the human race. That's their argument. The problem with it is, since we do not have any idea what the conditions were that existed before the universe erupted in the Big Bang, we have no way of knowing what the probability was from those conditions that the universe would be the way it is. We have no data on that. You can't calculate odds unless you know what the original conditions are. Plus, it beggars my imagination that the universe has existed for about 14 billion years. There are maybe a sextillion stars in the universe, and God knows how many planets there might be, and that all of that enormity and all of those years could have existed just to get around to the creation of humanity causes me to have a lot of trouble believing it.
You know, there are people who say the Bible is a metaphor and it was a way to help people understand things. It's a debate that will go on forever.
I would love to be involved in discussions and debates with folks who are interested in doing that. I think that would be fun. My background is as a trial lawyer, and I sort of enjoy that sort of thing.
Yeah, I would think that would make for an interesting night out to come and hear you speak and discuss.
Actually, I would love to hear whether or not Rice Brooks ever bothers to read the book or not.
Well, you should send him a copy.
I could do that.
Yeah, why not? Why not? I think that'd be great.
I can't think of any reason why not, now that you suggest it.
All right. Well, you do that and get back to me, all right?
All right.
That would be an interesting discussion. Now, that would be interesting.
I'd love it, although, it's kind of like the underdog in a political race hopes that the front runner will debate him, and the front runner is hoping he won't have to.
If you look at our recent political race, anything's possible, Cliff.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. In fact, that's kind of the subject of my next book.
Oh, okay.
Politics and religion, two things folks generally shy away from talking about in social settings, wind up being the two things I first write about.
Yeah.
Well.
Well, good for you. Somebody's got to do it, Cliff.
Somebody will, at any rate. And I'm enjoying it.
Hey, Cliff, that's what life is all about. You got to enjoy it, and you are enjoying this, so embrace it. Okay, with that, we are going to take a very, very, very quick break. When we come back, a story about a mom who had a feeling about something, and she was right. The upside of Down syndrome, and one man's determination to right the wrongs he sees all around him. So much more coming up right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
Welcome back to the Page Publishing Book Club. Thank you so much. We love it when you come back. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. You know, we have inspiration all around us. And in the case of Mary Joan Reesby, her sister was the inspiration for her book entitled The Upside of Down Syndrome. You know, Mary Joan, just reading your blurb, you really get a sense of the impact your sister had on you.
Well, you mentioned the word inspiring. My sister Juju, all right, she inspired me to tell her story. And writing The Upside of Down Syndrome, which I dedicated to her, that's exactly what I did. Now, you know, when she was born, July 3rd, 1947, Judith Ann Reesby, born in Waterbury, Connecticut. On the following day, the doctor told my mother that she had given birth to a mongoloid baby who needed to be institutionalized because she would never be able to take care of herself, and she would not live past her 5th year. In addition, he told my mother, in so many words, that my sister would have an adverse effect on her other children. Now, after my mother was given this doctor's doomsday scenario on the 4th of July, she, in a sense, set off her own verbal fireworks by telling the doctor that he was not God, and she would never put her child in an institution. Rather, she was going to bring her baby home and love her, take care of her, and teach her. And thank God that's exactly what she did. I'll always have the utmost respect and admiration for my mother because she took my sister home where she belonged.
I just think it's amazing that you said that doctors thought she wouldn't live past 5 and she lived to be in her 60s.
62. She lived to 67, but she lived 62 years past his prediction.
Yeah.
She lived decades by 62 years. Now, if my mom had placed Juju in an institution, she, in all probability, would have been left to fend for herself.
67 years ago, that's the way people thought about Down syndrome.
Many people thought that way.
And people don't think that way anymore. I mean, they have the Special Olympics, and they really...
But I believe in a large part because of my mother's assertive actions, Juju lived decades beyond the physician's prediction.
Absolutely.
By the 60 years that we've discussed. Now, as far as the doctor's callous comments that my sister would have an adverse effect on her siblings, well, nothing could be further from the truth. Juju had always been a tremendous source of joy for me and my brother Noy. She gave us unconditional love, and she never judged us. She was so sincere in her display of affection, Alice, towards us. For me, this was very refreshing after years of meeting a number of people who were sincere in their insincerity.
So this is a tribute to your sister.
Yes, ma'am. I lost her November 21st, 2014. I was holding her right hand when she passed away. It was shortly after I had to go to bereavement group because she was the only one I had left. You know, my brother passed away. My mother and father were gone. She was the only one I had left.
What's the biggest misconception that still exists today about Down syndrome children and adults?
Biggest misconception is they're not capable of doing anything for themselves. And people don't realize that that's the furthest thing from the truth.
All right.
They're very capable of giving the opportunity, and many of them years back were not.
So you feel good? Did you feel good when you got the thing in the mail saying, you know, your book's done, you're a published author, yay, yay?
Oh, yes. You know, it was a wonderful feeling of accomplishment and writing a touching tribute to a terrific sister, you know. Absolute delight, a feeling of elation in knowing that Juju's story is now available to the public in print. I felt like I truly accomplished something.
Excellent, Mary Joan. Good for you. If you have kids, you know what the word protection means. And you know how far you would go to make sure nothing bad ever happened to one of your kids. Well, our next author, Sue Katrama, takes that and runs with it in her book entitled Unknown Subject. Now, why does this mom, Laura, right? That's your main character. Why does she think her son's in danger?
Well, you think she's an over-paranoid mother. Like, if somebody looks at him the wrong way, she thinks that they're trying to kidnap him or harm him or something of a malicious nature. And she sees in her mind that they are doing something. So then she takes matters in her own hands.
Is she able to kind of sense things about people that other people can't?
Yes.
Is she anything like you?
Well, if you listen to my kids, they'll say, yeah, that it's me. I have 3 boys. They're 28, 23, and 10.
Is any of this story based on your own life?
No, it's fiction. It's fiction.
This sounds like a kind of dark story. Why did you go in this direction? What was your inspiration?
My inspiration is my kids. I tend to think that way, like, make sure you call me when you're out so nothing happens. Not that I'm a dark person, but I guess when it comes to my kids, I'm always worried something's going to happen. How could I keep them safe? What could I do? The older they get, the more stress it is. I guess it's every parent's fears. I just brought them to paper. And then at the end, towards the end, you see she wasn't so crazy. Her son did get kidnapped at the end of the book. And then I am currently writing the second one, which I thought I was done with Laura. But quite a few of my readers are begging, well, what happens? So I'm currently working on the second one, and it leaves you open to, did she do all these things that she's being accused of, or didn't she?
Who are all your readers?
I had a book launch when it was first published last year. I had a book launch. I had a lot of family and friends read. I got a lot of feedback from them, and then through them and through Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, I reached out to many other readers. A cousin of mine even sent my book over to Germany for her friends to read it. So the internet makes it a little bit easier to get a wider variety of readers.
So what's next?
What's next is, like I said, I'm currently working on the second book. I'm going to maybe wrap up Laura's story or just give you more of what's going on with her.
That's the mom, right?
Yes.
How did you find out about Paige?
I was in a forum online, just other writers, how they got their book published, who they trusted, who they worked well with. Quite a few people kept mentioning Paige Publishing, so I contacted them, and they were wonderful people to work with, helpful the whole way through. And I'm very proud to say the book came out beautiful. They let me have input on the cover design and all that, but they really ran with that, and they did a beautiful job.
All right, Sue, glad to hear it. Finally, Earl Humphreys was born and raised in Tennessee, and he is not at all happy with the way a lot of things are going in his home state. It's what his book entitled The Book of Earl is all about. Earl, what's going on down there right now?
Okay, let me lay it down for you.
Okay.
When it comes to the air quality, we are the 11th worst state in the nation. We are the 8th worst state in the nation when it comes to getting an education. We are the 5th worst state in the nation when it comes to premature births and premature deaths. We are also 5th worst in the nation when it comes to political corruption. Then we are the 3rd most racist state in the nation behind Mississippi and Alabama. Then we are the worst in the nation when it comes to cancer deaths. And all that is intertwined. It goes back to the political corruption, the polluting of the hollers where I lived when I was a kid, the politician renting the hollers out to these toxic chemical companies that was dumping. Killed off all my family at the age of 39, 9 years old, 54 years old. It goes on and on.
Jeez, Earl, I had no idea.
I used to be a troubleshooter back when I worked at Finger Hut, and I was the one who figured problems out. And anytime you addressed a problem, you had to go to the root of it. And the root of it is what I wrote the book about. My experiences let me see what I see today. And the Masonic institution has an evil in it. And the author was not the one that stuck the pin in the eye of the all-seeing eye. It was the evil within the institution. And if the good in the institution doesn't do anything about it, the people have to.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you really became an advocate.
I've always been an activist. I went to prison at a young age, rebelling. I didn't realize what I was rebelling against then. I was young, and I rebelled the wrong way. I took up the sword instead of the pen. Now, with all my experiences in my older age, I'm trying to show these young Muslims, these young black men, and the poor how to fight back. They're grabbing weapons, committing atrocities against innocent people. The only way that you can overcome is staying away from violence, because that plays into the hands of the evil that is conducting all this on the people. If you react with violence the way a lot of these young kids are and the Muslims are, then they're able to take your rights. They're able to conduct martial law. They're able to invade your countries. So that is not the way to overcome the oppression that the world faces.
So, okay, this is your story.
I'm here as a teacher. My experiences, my suffering, and the life that I went through is to show these young men how to have faith in God and fight back the right way. My next step is I'm going to take and declare that I cannot get a fair trial in the state of Tennessee for one of the reasons I wrote the book about the corruption in my hometown. And I plan to travel to Washington, D.C. again. This time, I'm going to take proclamations and declarations with me, just like my forefathers did. And I'm going to proclaim that the people want a true democracy. One woman, one man, one vote. No electoral college, no delegates. We want to be registered automatically when we turn 18 years old by our Social Security number. Then we get to vote on our computer at home. And after our vote's cast, we're able to go back and check how our vote's cast. But we carry it one step further. We don't just vote on these crooked politicians. The people are going to vote on all the major issues. We're going to have a true democracy. We're going to take their power. And we're going to do it by not overthrowing our government. We're going to correct our government. You have politicians being bought by men like Donald Trump. Everybody here calling him an outsider, but he clearly admitted to buying crooked politicians on both sides of the aisle. So not only is he an insider, men like him's been running the show all along, got us in this mess. So if the people are able to vote on all the major issues, that takes their power.
All right, Earl, you have a big agenda there. I give you credit for at least trying to work through the system and make a difference. I give you a lot of credit for that. And Rob, we have to go now. We are out of time. Thanks so much for joining us. Come back next week for another edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. Same time, same place, 710 WOR. Have a great weekend.